Everyday shocking acts are caught on camera.
Stop it! Why are you naked?
But these lawless individuals leave nothing to the imagination.
This dude is naked.
He's naked. He ain't got no pants on.
On this episode, a terrifying home invasion.
Wait, you're here! My house.
When the person said, "This is my house," that made everything even more traumatized.
A pizzeria is robbed in the middle of the night.
They see the suspect inside the establishment, naked, slamming the cash register drawer to the floor.
A woman leaving her house gets the scare of her life.
In that moment, it's either fight or flight.
And a dramatic school drop-off both dad and daughter will never forget.
Oh my God, there's a naked man running down the street.
You wonder what's he gonna do?
Holy!
Nestled in the Santa Monica Mountains, Bel Air is an affluent Southern California zip code.
It is Beverly Hills adjacent. It is dotted with huge mansions, giant landscapes, and even bigger security at all the homes that line the streets. It's not the type of community that you associate with high crime.
Which makes what happens at Matt Saab's secluded home even more shocking.
It was a Thursday, and I was staying home. I took the day off. I went for a run, and my wife took the kids to their grandma's house. I came after my run. I went upstairs. I was in the shower when I heard the security camera going off. I thought my wife was home early, so I didn't pay attention.
At the same time, Matt's wife Monica receives an alert on her phone from their home security system. Cameras around the entire house are being triggered.
She just looked to see, is the delivery guy, who is it? And she saw a naked man outside. I go out of the shower. I hear a lot of noise downstairs. Again, I think it's my wife and the kids are home. I mean, you don't think an intruder just came to your house?
Someone came inside the house. Inside whose house? I saw it on the camera. On the driveway? Where's someone? Inside our house.
He went to my gym bag and put on my shorts. He put on my shoes. He hears someone upstairs. It was me talking to my wife. He comes toward the noise. You're just shocked and you think maybe someone came into the wrong house? I mean, it happens. I mean, maybe the person just came to the wrong house.
Hey, what are you doing here? My house. What are you doing here? I'm gonna call the police right now. I'm gonna call the police right now. No, get out of the house.
When the person said, "This is my house," that made everything even more traumatizing to begin with.
And the guy isn't stopping. Slowly, he's heading up to him.
Right away, I knew something was not right, and I knew the best idea is not to engage. So I calmly walked away, closed the door.
Clearly, he's dealing with someone who's probably very dangerous, and the homeowner understands his limitations.
There was no lock on the door, so I'm using my body to hold the door. There's a part of you thinking that this is going to push. What's going to happen? I'm going to go in a wrestling match. So after 1 minute, when I didn't see him pushing the door, I thought, he's not here yet. Let's just run.
In that moment, it's either fight or flight. The homeowner has to climb down from his balcony, jumps off the balcony onto the hood of his car, only wearing his underwear.
I was literally on the phone telling the officer, 911 operator, that I am escaping my house.
While Matt makes his escape, the intruder continues to make himself at home. A reality not lost on Monica, who's still watching from afar.
Get the out! Now!
What?
Get out! I'll call the police! Get out!
There's speakers on a security camera, so my wife was telling the intruder, "What are you doing in our house? Get out."
Get the out! Now!
I would have tried to do the same thing as she did. You want to try to show anger and force.
Get out!
Hopefully, you trigger some sort of reaction to get them out of there, but nothing is working with this guy. Nothing.
Daringly, Matt Saab has escaped his Bel Air home, but in the process, a naked man with unknown intentions is still inside.
As I'm calling 911, I also call the security, the private security that we have. They decide that, hey, let's not stay here. So I climb on the balcony to my car. I jumped out. I'm barefooted. So now what is this guy gonna do? Is he just gonna steal stuff? Because he didn't go through my wallet. I was worried that he set the whole house on fire.
After 20 agonizing minutes, the community's private security detail arrives.
Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get the hands behind your back.
When he saw the gun, he respected the gun. He got down, and then they handcuffed him. And once I got in the house, I tried to talk to him.
What do you want to have? What's your name? What's your name?
He didn't say a word to me.
With the naked perp in handcuffs, Matt decides to check his 29 security cameras to learn what transpired during his shower.
This particular burglar was able to gain entry into the residence by entering an unlocked vehicle, and he was able to use this garage door remote control to enter the residence.
And it's the dining room camera that captures something so horrifying. It provides a hint to Matt and his wife how dangerous this man really was.
Most things we realized after everything was gone, because you have so many cameras.
Hold on.
And then you find the birds.
These were beloved pets. They cherished these birds. They had 2 children. This was their pets. Watching this scene unfold churns my stomach.
After being taken into custody by Los Angeles police, the intruder is identified as 34-year-old Paul Keon, a transient.
This is certainly an example of the homeowner using the security system the way that it was meant to be used. It was very important that not only did the alarm alert the wife who wasn't home so that she could notify her husband who was in that home with the crazed individual, but that he had the presence of mind to leave and then call authorities and let them come in and deal with him.
When we remodeled this house, we built a balcony with doors. And of course, the wife was kind of against that. And I always made a joke that, hey, if something happens, we need to run away, we need to escape. I can't escape from the balcony. But once I can tell my wife I was right, it was a good idea to build a balcony.
In January 2022, Paul Keon is found guilty on burglary and animal cruelty charges and is sentenced to 2 years in state prison.
It just made this whole thing weird. I mean, someone nude coming to our driveway. I mean, this whole thing, yeah, because there's so many questions even today. How'd you end up in Bel Air? How'd you end up in a hillside? At one point, did he get naked? Why did he get naked? It's just still puzzling.
I would describe Oakville as a sleepy bedroom community. A lot of people work in Toronto and come out here. It's very quiet.
Scott McKinnon and his daughter Lola have a routine during the school year. Every morning, they wake up, get dressed, and head outside to their car.
I take Lola to school around 8 o'clock in the morning every day. A lot of times we talk about music and bands. Lola's a big fan.
I remember that morning I took a picture of the sky because there's this rhyme that goes, red sky in the morning, sailors take warning, red sky at night, sailors delight. Should have taken warning.
As they approach a busy intersection just 2 blocks from Lola's school, they hear sirens. Instinctively, Lola pulls out her phone and starts filming.
Lola was like Wyatt Earp. She, in one move, just pulled it out and was filming.
I saw this guy and I was like, oh my God, there's a naked man running down the street.
Holy!
It's weird, it's freaky. Like, you just can't process why that guy's there at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my God. What is that guy's problem? I hope the cops get him.
The McKinnons' initial shock quickly turns to concern.
If he's willing to run fully naked down a main street that's got to be full of rocks and broken glass, you wonder what's he going to do? And he was running right by our car.
I did check to see if the doors were locked. There started off 1 or 2 cop cars at the scene.
There was 8 or 10 police cars by the end of it.
That's one of the most exciting things I've ever seen.
These officers eventually catch up with this individual who's been running and are able to gain control and get this individual into handcuffs. And so thankfully, the officers didn't cause any great injury to the individual. The individual didn't run out into traffic and get hurt by oncoming traffic.
I suggested maybe a husband came home and this guy was with his wife or his girlfriend or something. We didn't know.
The situation is even more dangerous than the McKinnons realize.
Just blocks away from where this occurred, the suspect assaulted a homeowner, stabbed him, and took off all their clothes, jumped out of the window of the house, and then took off running.
Once Lola and I found out that this guy actually had assaulted someone, it did put a little different spin on our incident.
It was just kind of like shocking.
Thankfully, the officers were able to apprehend this guy because he could have hurt and assaulted someone else, he could have carjacked someone, he could have done a multitude of things.
The suspect, who hasn't been named publicly by Halton Regional Police, is charged with mischief under $5,000, assault causing bodily harm, and assault with a weapon.
Never even seen anyone get arrested before, so that was definitely like, oh, that's an extreme.
You got a naked guy.
I got a naked guy. The guy's running naked. Holy. Me and my dad, I feel like after this experience, we're definitely trauma bonded in a way I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, I agree.
That's one of the most exciting things I've ever seen. Wow, that's a story to tell.
Slice Pizza in Towson is going to give you a free pizza pie for the rest of your life if you can identify a naked burglar.
This perpetrator, he's trying to shield his identity by putting his clothing over his head.
Honestly, thought I was dead. I was going to die that night.
She's trying to make her escape. Hopefully this is coming to an end, but really it's not.
Slice Pizza in Towson is going to give you a free pizza pie for the rest of your life if you can identify a naked burglar.
It's 8 a.m. at family-owned Slice Pizza, and Yanni Rizas arrives to open up for business as usual.
They get to their pizzeria and they can see that their door has been broken into and that inside the establishment, it's been ransacked. Thankfully, the perpetrator is not there. Wanting to understand what happened, the business owner decides to sit down and take a look at their security footage. They see the suspect inside the establishment, rummaging through the business, locating the cash register, slamming the cash register drawer to the floor, and he's naked.
While putting the ransacked restaurant back together, the owner realizes how the burglar ended up in the buff.
To come in from the roof, his pants got stuck in the ductwork, so he had to climb out of those, and he actually fell into Slice. So I guess he was going commando because he was running around naked in the back.
He realizes the burglar had come in through the heating vent. And as he lands on the floor with no pants, so what does he do? He decides to be consistent. He takes off the rest of his clothes. Why? Who the heck knows?
This perpetrator was thinking that he could be surveilled because he's trying to shield his identity by putting his clothing over his head. The suspect takes a little bit of cash and some checks, and then he leaves.
With footage of the perpetrator, the restaurant owner contacts police in hopes he can be quickly apprehended.
The business owner doesn't just have the security footage. He tells them about a suspicious car that was lurking in the alleyway.
The business owners offer a reward. Anyone who can provide information that will lead to the identity of the suspect is promised pizza for the rest of their life.
Unfortunately, a lifetime of cheesy goodness fails to entice anyone to come forward with information. But a few days later, police get a break when the suspect tries to make his naked gambit pay off.
He takes one of the stolen checks to the same bank that the business owner uses and tries to cash it. So this provides a great link for law enforcement because the bank video footage shows the same vehicle that was mentioned by the business owner. So the perpetrator just keeps going to places with cameras to commit his crimes.
Police link the car to 23-year-old Jonathan Newman, and it's his nakedness that unrobes his anonymity.
I think what the perpetrator didn't think about was all the identifying marks on his body in the form of tattoos. If you're going to commit a crime like this, don't have so much ink.
11 days after the burglary, police locate Newman in a surprising place.
What was ironic is that police officers located the suspect behind the pizza establishment where he had committed the crime about a week later.
Jonathan Newman is charged with second and fourth-degree burglary, malicious destruction of property, theft, and forgery. He pleads guilty and is sentenced to 10 years in prison, with all but 3 years suspended.
Initially, the business owner offered free pizza for life for anybody that helped capture this guy. But when the police did it, he went ahead and offered the police free pizza for a month. I would have been in that place every day.
Incredible video of a naked man on a rampage in Orange County.
I can't imagine being this woman. I would be trying to figure out, what is he doing?
Incredible video of a naked man on a rampage in Orange County.
That man stripped off all of his clothes in this field behind me, then he jumped over the fence.
It was a naked rampage unlike anything we've ever seen before.
It's shortly before midnight when Clarissa Vidrio leaves her home and enters her complex's parking lot. Like most nights, she is off to her shift as an overnight security guard.
As she enters her car, all of a sudden, there's a commotion in the stall immediately adjacent to hers.
Here comes a completely nude man, full sprint, who launches himself into the rear window of a minivan.
I can't imagine being this woman. I would probably freeze for several minutes. I would be trying to figure out, who is this guy? He doesn't belong here. He doesn't live here. What is he doing?
He did it with sufficient enough force to break the glass, knock himself down, but then he gets right up. And he just shakes it off. So obviously he's impervious to any feeling of real pain. And so at this point, he's a very, very dangerous individual.
She's trying to make her escape. She's in her car. She's thinking, hopefully this is coming to an end. But really, it's not. Because he then jumps right on the top of her car. The fact that the suspect could even get up after this incident is incredible in and of itself. But then to pick a new target and jump onto her car, it's insane.
He's holding on to the hood of the car. She starts turning to the left and turning to the right, and then she accidentally hits the very car that the guy had just gone headfirst into. And although he is finally dislodged from her car, she unfortunately then crashes her car again into another wall at the apartment complex.
Going through that rearview window and then jumping on the car as the female resident is trying to flee and then being flung off of it, all the while he's naked. I'm sure there are injuries to his body that he probably is going to regret he did any of that stuff.
The other residents in this apartment complex hear this commotion, and they come out just to see what the hell is going on in the garage. And the residents start calling 911. They're approaching him to render aid, and he suddenly just gets up like nothing happened and starts running.
The suspect is apprehended a mile away. He is identified as 21-year-old Garrett Smith. He's charged with being under the influence, vandalism, and resisting arrest.
What this female resident did is appropriate for the circumstances. I would tell my wife to do the same thing. Get out of there as quickly as possible, any way that you can.
Honestly, thought I was dead. I was gonna die that night.
You might laugh and think it's funny how the guy just gets up, falls down, gets up, fall down. But there's also someone else in this story, the woman who felt like she was held hostage in that car while this was happening.
Clarissa attests to this on the local news.
It's hard for me to come outside at night the way I used to. I need someone to come with me.
This doesn't last for one night. This is something that lasts a lifetime.
This season on Exposed, naked crimes,
Drop the sword! Drop it!
nude and unpredictable criminals,
Put your hands up! Put your hands up!
dangerously out of control,
There's an intruder in my house. He's naked.
Get the out of here, bro!
All of a sudden, there's a naked man beating people up.
Call the police! Call the police!
He's really amped up. He's acting very aggressive, and all the while, he's naked.
Swear to God, white dude, naked as a jaybird, on an ATV.
The naked man sitting on the back of the fire truck, Randy Travis.
This is a country superstar, an idol. And did I mention he's naked?
You're a dead man by tomorrow.
Clearly, nothing is going to stop him from getting in there.
Back here now. Get back.
It's something out of a horror movie.
Alan Morgan found his wife's body in the back storeroom of their shop when he and their 2 children returned from the cinema on Thursday night.
This is the position that she was left in.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrific, isn't it?
Carol's life was taken away from her at the age of 36. She deserves for the police to find who killed her.
Carol should still be alive today and enjoying her children and her grandchildren, and somebody's robbed that of her.
In over 40 years of investigative work, nobody had been charged with Carol's murder.
The attack that was sustained on Carol was so ferocious and so brutal.
We're investigating the murder that happened at the shop back in 1981.
Everyone that loved her deserves to know what happened to Carol.
The tragic element of this case is simply that it's not been solved. My case, if we ever get it there, is going to be circumstantial.
Yeah, it is. So, that's my overview. It's a bloody tough case.
This is one last attempt to try and get justice for Carol.
The scene of our offence is 61 Finch Crescent in Linslade. Carol was alone in the store at the time of the attack as her husband Alan and her 2 children, Dean and Jane, were out at the cinema. So in 1981, the original SIO focused very much on a burglary or a robbery that had gone wrong.
A man was seen about 500 yards from the shop in a motor car. He was seen to be clutching to his chest 2 plastic bags. It would appear at this stage that the bags contained the stolen money and the cigarettes from the shop.
That weapon that was used must have been a really sharp-bladed article to have caused such brutal injuries. Carol's still got her wedding ring on, and this was supposed to be a robbery, and if it was a robbery, why did they not take this stuff that would have been valuable?
Despite having an alibi checked and accepted by the police, Mr. Morgan can't convince some of his neighbours that he's innocent.
What are they saying about you now?
It's been offhand that I killed my wife. And as the police know themselves, and you yourselves know, well, I was in Luton, take the kids to the pictures.
Alan's alibi has been checked. His alibi is concrete. I have to accept that that's where he was. Our motive is essentially the classic love story. There's an ongoing affair between Alan and Margaret, and that the motive is embedded in that affair.
There was a fairly prolonged relationship, I think, between Alan and Margaret. There's anecdotal evidence that they were even found in bed the very next morning.
So this is Alan and Margaret after the murder. Then moved up north, and then they've gone on to get married.
My decision is to bring both Alan and Margaret in under arrest.
Hello, Alan, I'm from the police. I've come to arrest you this morning on suspicion of the murder of Carol Morgan.
I'm arresting you on suspicion of conspiracy to murder.
What?
And the murder of Carol Patricia Morgan.
I had no idea that anything like this was going to occur.
Do you have any information about who was responsible?
Oh, none at all.
Police are appealing for anyone with information, no matter how small, to get in touch and speak to the dedicated incident room.
Alan and Margaret have been released from police custody under investigation. It can be frustrating when you have to release suspects whilst the investigation continues, but particularly in the most serious of cases, we don't give up. There's been comprehensive media strategy which involved witness appeals, and as a consequence of that, a new witness has come forward with new evidence, potentially undermining Alan Morgan's alibi. We're scheduled for a 2-hour briefing today because there is lots and lots to go through. I'm going to hand over to Lindsay if you want to take us through all of the significant developments since we last met, please.
In terms of witnesses, we had a guy call into the incident room a couple of weeks ago, Michael Merrin, who lived in Leighton Buzzard at the time of the murder. Essentially, he has said that his brother sent him a message after Christmas with a picture of the poster from Linslade about the murder and said, what do you think about this? He's had a think about it and has made contact with us. And I've spoken to him, and he is saying that he was a regular at the shop. He knew Alan and Carol to talk to. He spoke to Alan on a regular basis about football and cars. He knew Alan's car by sight, and he knew Alan well enough to obviously have conversations regularly.
On the evening of the 13th of August 1981, took the turn around the roundabout towards Leighton Buzzard, and I see Alan Morgan on the other side of the road. 1, 2, 3 seconds, and he drove past in that direction, heading towards Finch Crescent. And I obviously carried on home. A couple of days later, when the local paper came out, it stated that she died on the Thursday evening and that the police weren't interested in Alan Morgan because he was at the cinema. And I turned to my mum and I said, well, that can't be right. I saw him on Thursday evening when we were driving back from the railway station at around 6:45. And my mum said to me, well, do you think you should go and tell the police that? And I said, I don't know, what do you think? And she said, well, if you're sure that you saw him. I said, Mum, I definitely saw him. So I made arrangements to go to Leighton Buzzard Police Station, and I told them what I'd seen, and they said, thank you very much for coming in, but at this moment in time, we've ruled Mr. Morgan out of our inquiry because he was at the cinema in Luton at that point in time. And that was, for me, the end of it. I know what my 18-year-old self saw, and I 100% am convinced, have always been convinced, that what I saw that night was Alan Morgan in his car.
Clearly, what we need to investigate and explore is whether we can prove or corroborate that information, because if Alan has come back to Linslade, then clearly that presents him the opportunity to murder Carol. So we made arrests in November of last year. Wherever they could rely upon, I can't remember that, that's what they did.
I see.
So the National Crime Agency have a number of specialists who I can ask for objective and independent advice that I can consider as part of my decision-making process. What I would say is that Alan was always considered to have an established alibi. He had taken the children to the cinema to a double bill, which we think would have run for about 4 hours.
Mm-hmm. They were at the cinema 4 hours and Dad was sat next to him all the time? No.
There is doubt around,
Okay.
or there is the possibility that he could have done anything within that time,
okay.
and his alibi is not nailed on.
Oh, great.
And then that is called into question because as recently as this year, a witness has come forward as a result of all of our media activity. There's a chap by the name of Michael Merrin.
Yeah.
He specifically says he sees Alan Morgan travelling back into Linslade in his car on the night of the murder. Now, I've got the team searching the 7,000 documents that we've got, but we just can't find any reference to Merrin or anything that Merrin may have provided to the original investigation team. This for me is a domestic homicide. Layering lots and lots and lots of coincidences and lies, and but in terms of direct physical evidence, I'm not sure I'll ever. I'm not sure the golden nugget exists. Now there is forensic work still ongoing, but I think this will always be a circumstantial case.
Going to your hypothesis then, Morgan and Spooner conspired together to do it.
Yeah.
So I get all that. What I'm not as clear on is, do you have a hypothesis or are you still working through that? Who's actually...
As to who was the...
Yeah.
I haven't.
Okay.
I can't sit here. To this day, I'm not sure. I think either of them could have done.
Yeah.
I think they could have paid someone to do it. I really don't know. My case, if we ever get it there, it is going to be circumstantial.
Yeah, it is. So, it's a bloody tough case, isn't it? Let's be honest, from where it is. I concur with what your hypotheses are. The issue for me is how we get there, of course. And that's always the challenge, isn't it, you know?
I am Sian Saunders, Senior Crown Prosecutor in the Complex Casework Unit of the Crown Prosecution Service. My job is to decide whether or not there's a realistic prospect of conviction in a case and whether it's in the public interest to prosecute that case. This is an incredibly interesting case, but it's also going to be a very, very difficult case because witnesses may be dead and witnesses may not remember. So we are relying on an investigation that happened over 40 years ago. So it's going to be a very difficult case to prosecute.
We're just heading out to Linslade Cemetery to try and locate the gravestone of Carol Morgan. So in a cold case like this, I think it gives us some good background in relation to the family. So for us, it's quite important to try and find that out, who's put the gravestone down and what it says.
We're here, aren't we? Somewhere here.
No idea where this is going to be. I'm assuming we're looking for something a lot older.
Yeah, some of these look new and cared for.
This one?
The open book.
Here we go. Cherished memories of our beloved daughter Carol, forever in our thoughts.
And then the other side of the book
is blank.
Is blank. No mention of her being a mum or a wife.
Or a surname.
No. It's awful. Poor Carol. I think the fact that Morgan isn't on there suggests that maybe the parents wanted to disassociate her from the name, from him. I mean, could it suggest that they didn't have a very good relationship with him, or that they thought that he was involved in some way in her death?
Auntie Carol was someone who was a quiet, relaxed person, but bubbly. She was friendly. She always smiling. I just remember her always smiling. I remember a time when we didn't see Auntie Carol. This was after she married Alan Morgan. It was a couple of years after they married, they moved away to Leighton Buzzard, and we never heard from them again. We lost contact with them, and I think a lot of that was to do with the fact that he was so manipulative. I felt that he's had something to do with it. When I was younger, he just was a person that I didn't know him much, but whenever I saw him, he wasn't a person that was very friendly. He was nothing like Carol. She was open and kind, and he wasn't.
The investigation has stalled somewhat during the pandemic. So we recently reviewed all of the original witnesses who provided statements to the investigation back in 1981. There were a number of those witnesses that we hadn't been able to trace, hadn't been able to catch up with. And in the last week or so, we've been able to trace one of those witnesses who's provided significant information to the investigation. This was somebody that lived locally, somebody who was a child, i.e. under 18 years old at the time of the offence, and who not only knew our suspects, but also knew Carol, our victim. And I think at this stage, that's as much as I'm prepared to say. Obviously, when a witness contacts us, we have to have some conversation with them to ascertain what it is that they've got to say, what is their account. In this particular instance, the evidence that this individual started to talk about was so significant and so key and critical to our case that the officer deliberately stopped that conversation and said, I can't talk to you about this in any depth. We asked them to stop talking, and we asked them to wait until we're in a position to go and sit down with them and capture the entire account for the first time as much as possible on camera. And as we speak at this moment in time, those officers are with that witness and securing her account. Yes, massive, absolutely massive. Massive development for the investigation. We are very much, as a team, of the opinion that this is the piece of evidence that we have been looking for. This is the direct evidence that has evaded us so far.
Right then, and we're all good to go. Okay, and what do you think happened? What do I think happened to Carol? I think she had a fight. And lost the fight. Who would have wanted to fight her? Whoever it was really angry at her, hated her. And what makes you say that? Because of the way she was killed. It's a pretty savage way, isn't it? And do you know anyone that might have wanted her dead? Yeah. Who? Her husband. And I suppose Margaret.
When I was 14, I got expelled from school, and Margaret was assigned as my tutor from the age of 14 to 16. I was in a pretty bad place. I was really, really struggling. And Margaret really helped with that. So I could talk about, the sort of stuff you wouldn't talk to your mum or your dad about, And yeah, she saved my life in some ways. I came to really admire Margaret and to respect her a lot, and I grew fond of her. It was at least 3 months before the murder. It could have been longer. I went to a pub called Dolphin, which no longer exists in Lane Buzzard. I met both of them there, and it wasn't just a casual thing. It was arranged by Margaret, and I couldn't really understand why. It led to a conversation about, well, I'd quite like Carol dead from Alan. And then them talking about various ways and ruling them out, like the insulin. Then there was car accident. And there was like, neither one of them knew enough about car mechanics to be able to do that. And what about the children? They could be in the car, etc. Looking at it through my adult eyes now, you know, why did it take you 42 years to speak up? But it's not as straightforward as that. It's like I was a 17-year-old mixed-up kid who didn't really know which way was up and had more than enough of her own problems. I found out that Carol had died. Margaret phoned me and told me. I was absolutely freaked out. And she was very keen to say, don't talk to anyone. She kept saying he didn't do it. And I kept saying, yeah, but I don't believe he didn't do it. You might believe that, but I don't believe that. I think he's capable of it. And he hated her. You know he hated her. And now I'm confused. Now I'm really frightened now. Because the one person I never considered that could have done it is her. In a million years. I never asked myself that. I never asked her that. I never questioned it. I totally 100% trusted that she was a good person. She would dream of doing that. She saved my life, you know. She'd been so good to me. She would never hurt anyone. And I don't know anymore whether I'm right. And it's killing me. I always hoped that I would have a chance, you know, that somebody would ask me, that the police would come to me. And I was pleased and relieved when my mum said, the police were here, came to see me and they want to speak to you. And I was like, hallelujah. Hallelujah.
To cut a really long story short, essentially she went to the Dolphin pub. She was driven there by Margaret and Alan was already there. They discussed that he hated Carol, he didn't want her in his life, and how could they get rid of her? There was a discussion around, if we did get rid of her, maybe we could do it with insulin. Then they discussed, well, maybe we could set up a car crash. And then they sort of said, well, actually, maybe we could get someone else to help. Looking back now as an adult, she now thinks they were trying to involve her in a conspiracy. And she was so frightened that she left the pub. Margaret then came after her and said, oh, what are you worried about? It's only a joke. It's only a joke. He's not going to do anything. And Jane categorically says that she believes that Alan would be capable of doing that, and she did think it would happen.
This is a huge step forward. This is the first time we've heard this direct evidence, so that absolutely supports the need to bring them in under arrest. And along with everything else, put this evidence to them. There's confirmation of a conspiracy, and there's direct evidence of overhearing that conspiracy being discussed. Still a long way to go, still a lot of work to do, but a kind of work to be done with a renewed vigour and you know, with some more optimism now around what that might result in. Yeah, it's good. It's good development. We are in a different position this time round. You know, I accept that first arrest, you could almost say was almost like a bit of a fact find, really. And I think, if I'm being honest, we were in a position where they had the upper hand, as did their legal representation. And we're down in Brighton, and I think everything was kind of stacked against us. I see it very differently this time round. No, we're not popping down the road to Brighton. You're coming back to Bedfordshire, which is where the murder was committed. You know, this is a murder. This is a murder investigation, not some sweets that have been nicked off a shelf in your local co-op store. So you're going to come back to Bedfordshire and we're going to deal with you in Bedfordshire. You know, straight away, we are dictating this is what's happening. We are in control of this. This is our investigation and we are running it.
And it feels different this time, I think, to you.
Well, now we've got something to put to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those being Jane. So, yeah, we've got things to talk about.
Detectives investigating the death of a woman near Leighton Buzzard nearly 40 years ago have arrested 2 people on suspicion of murder.
What can you tell me about Jane Bunting?
No comment.
Can you tell me a bit more about the relationship between you and Jane?
No comment.
So, Jane says that you were being quite open about the fact you wanted to get out of your marriage.
Okay, no comment.
Did you? Did you want to get out of your marriage?
No comment.
You never know what to expect when you go into an interview. We prepare for all eventualities. We prepare for people to say nothing, exercise their right to go no comment. But if someone is innocent, particularly of a murder, and they have played no part in the murder, one would expect them to be honest, transparent, detailed, and try and help you, particularly if it's your wife or someone that you love, you know, and care about.
So she said some of the suggestions that you'd come out with were that you could use your insulin to kill her. Have you ever thought about doing that?
No.
That you could stage a car accident. Have you ever thought about doing that?
No.
You both then began to discuss various ways about killing Carol, about what if Carol had a car accident. Is this jogging any memories?
No.
Margaret?
No.
One of the things that you said is, I'd quite
I'm
like...
alleged to have said, not said.
Well, this is what I'm trying to get to the bottom of.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you're
Did you
saying
say
I
that?
said it.
Okay.
But I'm alleged to have said it, but don't comment. I did not.
You did not? Okay, just tell me that then, if you didn't. I'd quite like my wife gone.
No,
You didn't say that, or you did say that?
I didn't say that. Oh, I don't know.
You don't know if you said it?
Don't comment.
Do you remember that you asked Jane not to talk to the police about this conversation in the pub?
No.
Did you ask her not to
No.
mention to the police?
I don't recall the conversation at all.
One of the things that Jane said to you in regards to about killing someone, that she could never do that. And then you replied and she said it was as cold as ice, I could.
Now, I'm sure now you can see, Margaret, why you're in custody today, because
Absolutely,
of what she's saying.
I do not recall any of those conversations, and I have said that all the way along.
Yeah. Because if her account is right, there is a conspiracy going on there. That's if her account is right, okay? Me frowning at me, but if her account is right, there's the conspiracy. It's a very serious.
I understand that.
Yeah?
I do understand
So you
that.
can see why now you're in custody today. Now, I'm glad you understand that.
Yes, I do. But
All right.
as I say, and I keep repeating it, I do not recall
I know you keep
any of
saying.
these conversations.
You keep saying you do not record any of these conversations, Margaret, but you're not saying they didn't happen.
Good. No. She can't keep to a no comment at all. She's advised again, but still couldn't help itself.
That is a bizarre response, isn't it? I don't recall.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
recall
really
it.
bizarre.
You'd be like,
because she goes no comment.
Yeah.
And so then I say, well, okay, let's clarify. You saying no comment because you don't remember, or are you saying no comment because you just don't want to say? No, that's because I don't remember.
it is a bizarre, because you know what you'd expect is no, that conversation didn't happen. That conversation has never happened.
No.
Don't know what she's talking
Weird.
about, but
Yeah.
to say I don't remember it, it's not very credible, is it? We, so far in this investigation, are no nearer being able to prove who murdered Carol. However, we are remarkably close now to being able to prove that there was a conspiracy to have Carol murdered.
You then asked Jane if her boyfriend would know anyone who would kill Carol.
Did he? I don't know. I don't. No.
Did they approach somebody who was known to them, or indirectly or directly? Were they able to recruit for want of a better phrase, a hit person to carry out the murder? It's not something we can answer with any degree of certainty at the moment. There's only Alan or Margaret that can tell me if somebody was paid by them to murder Carol.
Jane said that she felt like she was being drawn into a conspiracy, something that she didn't want to be part of, something that you wanted her to be part of. Is that right?
No comment.
Did you want Jane to be part of plans to murder your wife?
No comment.
Was that your goal that evening?
No comment.
I've put a phone call into the Crown Prosecution Service just to consider the charging decision. I know that the interview teams are kind of there and chomping at the bit, and they'd really like to see us go for a charge, but at the moment my thoughts are that they're likely to be released under investigation.
We now have a significant amount of evidence that suggests that Alan and Margaret Morgan were involved in this offence. But I can't charge the case until I'm absolutely sure that there's nothing in the material from the 1981 case that might undermine our case against Alan and Margaret. And so I've advised the police to complete a review of all the paperwork from the 1981 case. The decision to charge has to be right, and it has to be right first time in a case like this. And it's my decision, and one that I have to be prepared to stand by. And until the case is ready, I'm not prepared to make a charging decision.
A man and a woman in their 70s arrested in connection with the death of a woman near Leighton Buzzard nearly 40 years ago have been released under investigation. The body of 36-year-old...
Police say while no one has ever been charged, they remain committed to finding out the truth for Carol's family.
It's a huge undertaking to review all of the investigation material, but it's so important that it's done properly, and it's so important that it's given the right time. It can make or break your case. Today's effectively D-Day, if you like. Today is the day where I find out whether 4.5 years of investigative work is going to result in a prosecution. So this is us having a conference with CPS and council now that they're in receipt of our full evidential case, and asking, OK, are we going to prosecute this? Are you going to give me a charging decision? Are we going to court?
So we are moving closer to being able to reach an ultimate decision on the critical question of whether there is a case to go to a jury or there isn't.
This is a complex case which relies on the person presenting it to a court understanding the fine detail and being able to explain to a jury how those small pieces of evidence fit together into the bigger picture. Whilst the decision as to whether or not to prosecute is always going to be one for me, it's incredibly helpful to have an opinion from Pavlos, because he is known to have worked on large and complex cases in the past.
Okay, so this has been the most thorough re-examination of this case. And if there's a case, there'll be a case of conspiracy to murder against Alan Morgan, Margaret Morgan. And if there's a case to charge against them both, I think everyone will agree that there is more evidence in relation to Alan than there is in relation to Margaret, albeit that she's inextricably linked given her close relationship with Alan Morgan. So the case that I've advised in favour of charging, which the Crown Prosecution Service will review, is that Alan Morgan and Margaret Morgan conspired together and with the person who killed Carol Morgan to murder her, and that was done by offering payment, which was made to somebody who then committed murder.
Of course I want to catch the person that murdered Carol. Of course we do. But there's no direct evidence about who that somebody was. There really are only two people that know the answer to that question, and they're the two people that we're investigating for the conspiracy to murder Carol.
In order to prove a conspiracy, we only have to prove that there was an agreement to kill. So in this case, we would be alleging that Alan and Margaret found somebody and paid them to kill Carol.
So busy. But come on in and meet the team. Alongside the normal lines of inquiry and investigation that my team have been conducting, one area of investigation that we used was that on each occasion that Alan and Margaret were arrested, we would record any conversation that they have with each other.
What are you going to say?
Because I need to wait.
I say, what are you going to say? We don't know, see? I don't know anything. There's some pictures.
So the evidence contained no admissions of guilt, no conversation that lends itself to what actually happened on the night or who was actually responsible, but their behaviour, their comments to each other, the general demeanour and discussion they have is absolutely of assistance to our case.
I don't understand anything. Well, about else.
Alan says to Margaret, I don't want to say anything because they might have.
And then they go quiet.
And then they go quiet. You heard that?
Yeah.
What was it that he might say that he wouldn't want the police to hear? These are potentially significant, suspicious comments, and I'd be interested to hear, if they're brought in for further interviews, what explanation they give.
In light of the recorded evidence and along with the review of all of the investigation material, it enables me to have Alan and Margaret rearrested for the conspiracy to murder Carol.
Morning.
Morning, Margaret.
Yeah. Oh, Winnie, you're right.
Is Alan here as well?
Oh, yeah. Hello.
Can we come in, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Is he up?
No.
Oh, okay.
Winnie, come get.
Just gonna come up. It's the police.
Alan? Right, I need you to listen to me, okay? Following your previous arrests and release, okay, a number of inquiries have been conducted over a period of time. As a result of those inquiries, I'm now arresting you on suspicion of conspiracy to murder Carol Patricia Morgan on or before the Thursday, the 13th of August, 1981.
So I'm arresting you on suspicion of conspiracy to murder. Okay. And that is the murder of Carol Patricia Morgan on or before the Thursday, the 13th of August, 1981.
Right.
Okay.
So the plan today is that yourself and your wife are going to come with us. We're going to go to Bedfordshire Police Headquarters, where you're going to be interviewed throughout the day. Okay? And then decisions will be made thereafter. So I need you to get yourself dressed and ready to go, please.
I'm sorry, Colin. I'm sorry.
All right. That's everything.
Do it,
Just don't tell me.
To be honest, love, I don't know what they've done.
I wish I'd seen it.
You're right. Yeah. Our suspects were arrested this morning. They've been transported back up to Bedfordshire, so we're awaiting their arrival. I just need to check in with the team and see what's happened, what I need to be aware of, and make sure that everything's running as it should be. This will be the final stage of our investigation. And the fact that our lawyer, Charles Saunders, from the Crown Prosecution Service, is present here with us is very encouraging.
On the basis of the material I have already and the review of all the material that's been undertaken, I'm almost in a position where I can make a charging decision. The police have now gathered this evidence from the recordings, and it's really important that I understand Alan and Margaret's view and explanation of that recording before I make a charging decision.
So this is a conversation between you and Alan on the 27th of November, so when you were first arrested. So it's difficult to hear, but you shush there and you whisper something outside as well.
It's a wee, probably. That sounded like.
From the point of view it looks from me, this looks very suspicious. Is there anything, you'd laugh about it, but...
I know I'm laughing
is
about
there, is
it,
there
but
anything...
no comment.
Well, tell me why I'm getting that wrong.
No comment.
You lower your voice for that part when you're shushing him, and you whisper something to him deliberately so we can't hear, and then you raise your voice back up again, either side saying, I need a wee.
Don't know.
So we can't hear what you're saying.
As I have said before, on every occasion, I am absolutely nothing to do with it.
So why would an innocent person do that? Why would you shush someone that's trying to get their story straight for the police? Why not protest your innocence? She started with, I need a wee, and then finished with, I'm going to say I need a wee.
No comment.
To cover the shushing and then whispering in the middle.
No comment.
Why is it you find this funny, Alan?
I'm going to say something now.
No, you don't have to.
I am. Have you ever been in this situation that I'm in now?
Thankfully not.
Right.
I'm not sure I'd laugh.
No, if you wouldn't like it.
Right.
Doesn't matter what I say.
We agree on that.
All right?
Yeah.
Whatever I say.
Yeah.
Or whatever you say.
The problem is you're not saying anything else.
No. I'm trying.
Well, you just go no comment.
No, shit. I know I'm not saying no comment because I'm frightened of what you're going to do even if...
What we're doing is trying to get your...
No, you're not. You're trying to incriminate me in doing whatever.
How?
I don't know.
Not a way, because we're not trying to...
Can we just have a break?
Okay.
The only people that have benefited from Carol's death are you and Alan, Margaret. Nobody else.
How many times do I have to keep saying it? I have had nothing to do with this.
The only person that can benefit from this is you and Margaret, and which is exactly what happened. She moved in a short while later. You played happy families and moved away a couple of months later. The shop was sold up and bought and paid for, and then you went on to buy another shop, and everything was fine after that. Is there anything you want to tell us?
No comment.
She was probably advised to go no comment, but in true Margaret style, she couldn't do that. She reiterated several times that she wasn't involved, that he wasn't involved.
She's not denying that what we're telling her is happening. She just said, I don't remember the conversation, I don't know why I would do that. I said, do you agree that what we've read out is what's been played to you? And she's like, yeah, that's definitely me shushing. That's definitely in doing what you're saying. But I just don't remember the conversation. I don't know why I would do that. But we're totally innocent. That's all the way through. We're totally innocent. However, if I was a third person, I'd think the same as you.
Okay. No, if you're innocent, you know you're innocent. You protest your innocence and you have nothing to hide. You're not worried about anybody recording you.
So it's mainly no comment, and he did stay no comment this time because every time he went to talk and he did want to talk, the solicitor just tapped him on the side.
Yeah, I mean, we probably suggested, like, the shushing, I don't want to say anything because you're clearly aware that it's been recorded. You've clearly got something to hide and you're not telling us. You're clearly involved in some way with Carol's murder, but you're just not prepared to tell us about it. No comment. So I was like, well, that speaks for itself.
I think that brings us to you, Sean, and whether...
You're all sitting there hoping,
well,
aren't you?
what do you... Is there anything else you need from us? What do you need?
I don't need anything else.
OK.
So I think I've got it all, and I don't think that anything that they've said today changes anything that we've previously discussed or thought about over the last 5 years. I think we're happy that there's nothing in there that's going to catch us out, which is the most important thing. Nothing at trial that's suddenly going to come out that we don't know about. With that in mind, I think there is enough evidence to charge both of them with conspiracy to murder.
Excellent.
And I just need to finish off the advice. It's pretty much done, and I will be able to hit the button.
To finally get to that point where an independent decision maker is saying, yeah, we're going to charge, the evidence is sufficient to charge, it's a huge, huge relief, but it's also a great deal of satisfaction.
Hello again. Okay, so CPS have come back with a charging decision to charge you with one offence. This officer here is going to read out the charge.
On the 13th of August 1981 at Leighton Buzzard in the county of Bedfordshire, you conspired together with Margaret Morgan to murder Carol Morgan.
So, in relation to that charge, Alan, do you want to make a reply?
Not guilty.
Okay.
Carol was a really, really ordinary woman, and I don't say that unkindly. She was just an ordinary woman doing a really ordinary job in a really quiet housing estate. And she died in a most extraordinary way. And actually, if you take out of the picture the robbery hypothesis and look at it, who else had a motive to kill her? Who else would have wanted her dead? And why was she killed with such ferocity? So it comes down ultimately to motive. And then really the only people who needed or wanted her dead were Alan and Margaret. It gave them what they needed. It gave them what they wanted. They wanted to be together, and there wasn't any other way. It's horribly simple, but devastating and very sad for Carol and Carol's family.
You are charged with the following offence. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention now something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do so may be given in evidence. On the 13th of August 1981 at Leighton Buzzard in the county of Bedfordshire, conspired together with Alan Morgan to murder Carol Morgan.
In relation to that charge, do you want to make a reply?
Wish to plead not guilty.
Not guilty, okay.
Yeah, I did Alan, and then she did, Kelly did Margaret.
Not guilty.
Yeah, they both said exactly the same. Both said not guilty straight away. Yeah.
Just because we've charged them, they ain't going to suddenly roll over and say, oh, yeah, all right, you're right, are they? So
that's done.
Good. From the outset, I always thought we had a good chance of detecting this and seeing Alan and Margaret charged with this offence. I'm just pleased for the team because they've worked so hard on this. I get a great deal of satisfaction out of knowing they will feel elated as to what we've achieved today. So now that we have charged Alan and Margaret, it's time to prepare for a Crown Court trial. So today is our first day of the trial at Luton Crown Court. Do I believe that Alan and Margaret are involved in Carol's murder? Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. I think they're involved, have orchestrated it. But it doesn't matter what I think, does it? It's the jury that determine that.
A trial many feared would never see the light of day finally got underway, almost 43 years after Carol Morgan was hacked to death and found on a shop floor in the town of Linslade.
42 years after his second wife, Carol, was found repeatedly struck with an axe or a machete, Alan Morgan and Margaret Morgan, who was his lover at the time and is now his third wife, arrived at Luton Crown Court to face charges of conspiracy to murder, charges they both deny.
Telling a story through the structure of a trial is always hard, but here we've got decades that have passed. And so what I really want the jury to be able to understand is the nature of that illicit affair that Alan and Margaret were having with each other, and also understanding the evidence that either or both of them conspired with another killer to commit the murder of Carol Morgan.
Jurors in the trial of a couple accused of conspiracy to murder have retired to consider their verdict. The couple, who are in their 70s, have been on trial at Luton Crown Court for the past 8 weeks.
The jury are in their room, deliberating. We have no idea. The whole process is sacrosanct, locked down. Only they know what they're talking about. It could still go one or two ways. The worst possible outcome, I think, for everyone would be a hung jury, because I'm fairly confident we would go again if that panned out. And that brings a whole rehash of all the stresses and trials and tribulations we and the witnesses have been through.
All the evidence suggests that we've got the right people. So unfortunately, I think if it becomes back as not guilty, that'll be the end of it. There won't be any, it will remain open, but there's no evidence to suggest any other routes or lines of inquiry.
It's a nerve-wracking time for everyone involved, but obviously this is the summation of years of work for us. So it's a bit, you just don't know what's going to happen, so it's just a waiting game, really.
Well, everything is at stake. Everything's at stake. This is, this has been a 6-year journey for me. It's been a 43-year journey for justice for Carol Morgan and Carol Morgan's family. So everything's at stake. It's the first time anybody's been charged, stood trial in relation to Carol's murder. So the outcome of this is really significant. After a 6-year investigation and a 43-year journey for justice for Carol Morgan, we finally got our verdict. Alan Morgan has been convicted unanimously of conspiracy to murder Carol Morgan. The jury were out deliberating for almost exactly 1 week, and they've acquitted Margaret Morgan of conspiracy to murder. She's free, she's at liberty, to go and get on with her life
No comment.
as she sees fit, but clearly that life will now be without Alan Morgan.
The verdict against Margaret is one that the jury came to. I can't go behind that. They heard all the evidence. They made their decision. I have no way of knowing what it was that made them come to that conclusion. But the evidence against Alan was always going to be stronger.
Alan Morgan, you fall to be sentenced for conspiracy to murder your wife, Carol Morgan, who was savagely killed on the 13th of August 1981. Only one person knows the identity of the murderer, and that is you, Mr. Morgan. That is the secret which you have harboured for the last 40 years. The law has now caught up with you, and you must pay due punishment for your part in this crime. There's only one truly wicked person who's been in this court, and that is you, Alan Morgan. For conspiracy to murder, I sentence you to imprisonment for life. Taking into account the aggravating and mitigating factors to which I have referred, the minimum term to be served shall be 22 years. You may be taken down.
Margaret, is there anything you'd like to say? Any reaction to the sentence?
I'm really pleased with the sentencing. We couldn't have asked for more. I was somewhat surprised. I was concerned that the minimum term was going to be a lot less than 22 years. I think it sends out a fantastic message.
The sentence was a just one, in accordance with the law as it was at the time. Whilst it's going to be difficult for Alan to spend 22 years or the rest of his life in prison, it's only fair that he has to be punished for what he did to Carol.
Auntie Carol's life was taken away so suddenly, so shockingly. She didn't deserve any of this, and she should be living her life to the full.
Carol has missed out on seeing her children grow into adulthood, seeing them have successful lives, seeing them become parents and becoming a grandparent. She has been robbed of all of that. I'm obviously pleased with the conviction of Alan. However, our efforts to bring anybody else who has played a part in this conspiracy to justice will continue, because I think we owe Carol that.